I watched someone I once idolized, someone whose mind was brilliant and whose heart was boundless, give everything he had to the world and lose it all. Every ounce of his time, every drop of his energy, every beat of his loyalty. He poured into people who didn't even pause to notice. He trusted without hesitation, forgave without limit, and sacrificed endlessly for everyone around him. And in return, the world chewed him up, tore him apart, and left him hollow. His kindness, the thing that had once made him luminous, became the very cage that imprisoned him. His generosity, the trait that had once made him admired, became the trap that strangled his potential. And I thought, watching him break, that the world had simply taken too much from someone who gave too much. Years later, I ran into him again. I almost didn't recognize him. Gone was the warm, eager face that had once lit up every room. In its place was a calm, cold, calculated presence. There was a weight to him now, not of burden, but of something else entirely, authority. He moved differently, spoke differently, existed differently. And when we finally met, he leaned in, a quiet, almost dangerous intensity in his eyes, and whispered a single sentence that stopped me in my tracks. Power isn't in what you give, it's in what you withhold. I replayed those words in my mind for weeks. The weight of them pressed against every belief I'd held about kindness, about loyalty, about effort. Because what he said wasn't just a lesson about him. It was a lesson about everyone who gives too much, hopes too hard, and sacrifices too freely. It was a lesson about me, about you. Right now you are carrying the burden of version 1, the version of yourself that bends, that pleads, that explains, that sacrifices endlessly hoping someone notices. Version 1 gives without calculation, forgives without consequence, and trusts without measurement, believing that goodness alone will protect them, will make them seen, will make them safe. But the world doesn't respond to generosity. It responds to control. It notices who commands, who decides, who withholds. The harsh truth is this: you've been living as version 1 far too long, and every act of unmeasured kindness, every word of explanation, every step taken for someone who would never take one for you, has been quietly eroding your power. The world is not fair. It never notices the sacrifices of the good. It never rewards blind trust. It preys on it. And yet, there is another way. A version of yourself that exists quietly, deliberately, ruthlessly, without apology. Version 2 does not chase validation, does not beg for understanding, does not bleed for attention. Version 2 moves with the precision of someone who has learned that power lies not in giving everything, but in giving wisely, in holding back, in preserving the essential parts of themselves that the world will never earn without effort. Today, I'm going to show you how to awaken that version of yourself, the version your circumstances, your past failures, and the people who have used you have been begging you to become. I'm going to reveal the Machiavellian strategies that turn kindness into leverage, weakness into a weapon, and vulnerability into untouchable authority. This isn't about cruelty. It isn't about becoming heartless. It's about becoming intentional, about learning where to pour your energy and where to let absence speak louder than presence, about understanding that every gift, every word, every act you give the world carries consequences, and that control comes to those who understand those consequences and act accordingly. Before we dive into these transformations, I want you to understand one thing. This journey isn't comfortable. It isn't soothing. It requires burning pieces of the self that have clung to approval, to sympathy, to the belief that being good is enough. But every step you take into version 2 strips the world of its leverage over you. Every lesson learned builds a fortress around your energy, your mind, and your peace. And the first step, The step that begins with understanding your power and what you withhold is the step that changes everything. Principle 1. Give wisely, not freely. The first shift into untouchable power begins with understanding one brutal truth. Generosity without boundaries is weakness. You have been trained to believe that giving endlessly proves character, that forgiving indiscriminately shows virtue, that sacrificing without calculation demonstrates greatness. And for a while, it might have felt noble. It might have felt like being good, being kind, being human. But the world doesn't reward that. The world exploits it. Every act of unmeasured giving becomes a blueprint for how to manipulate you. Every apology, every favor, every act of goodwill that is assumed rather than earned chips away at your value. Think about every situation where someone took advantage of your patience or your energy. You gave freely because you believed that kindness equals power. But here's the hidden reality. In human psychology, what is given without conditions loses its worth. When generosity is predictable, people stop seeing it as a choice and start seeing it as your obligation. They stop respecting your presence and start assuming your absence is irrelevant. Machiavelli wrote that men are quicker to offend one who is loved than one who is feared, because predictability and kindness breeds complacency. When people know you will forgive, they exploit. When they know you will sacrifice, they manipulate. And when they know you will give freely, they take without fear of consequence. To give wisely is to give deliberately. It is to understand that your energy, attention, and loyalty are assets, not infinite resources. Not everyone deserves them. Not every request deserves a yes. Not every relationship deserves your full self. When you start treating your generosity like currency rather than default behavior, you shift the balance of power. You stop teaching people how to take from you. You start teaching them how to earn your presence. Your absence, your restraint, your refusal to give without merit becomes louder than anything you could have said. This doesn't mean being cruel or selfish. It means being strategic. It means deciding who deserves your time and energy based on their respect, their consistency, and their value. Let the unworthy feel the weight of your absence. Let them realize that your attention is not infinite, that your loyalty is not a given, that your heart is not disposable. In doing so, you reclaim control over your life. You stop being a source for others to exploit and start being a presence that commands consideration. Start small. Begin by saying no to one thing you would have said yes to automatically. Pause before giving your time, your energy, your approval. Ask yourself, does this person, this situation truly deserve it? Every time you practice restraint, you reinforce a lesson. Your generosity is not cheap. It is a weapon. It is leverage. It is your choice. You are no longer bending to the world's demands. You are inviting it to meet your terms. Repeat this affirmation. I give wisely, not freely. Let it guide every interaction where you are tempted to overextend yourself. Let it remind you that power is measured in restraint, that control is built in absence, and that your influence grows not when you surrender it, but when you withhold it until it is earned. Every act of calculated giving becomes a statement. You are not someone who can be taken for granted. You are someone who decides when, where, and how your energy will flow. And that is the beginning of true authority. Principle 2. Turn pain into power. The second transformation begins with a truth most people resist. Suffering is not punishment. It is intelligence. Pain is not the enemy. Weak people view it as injustice, as a burden to escape, as something to complain about endlessly. The powerful see it differently. They see it as a teacher, a mirror, a weapon. Every betrayal, heartbreak, failure, or loss contains data about who you are, where your boundaries fail, and where your power is being stolen. Pain exposes weakness, but it also exposes opportunity. And opportunity is the language of dominance. Think about every time life has broken you, every moment of rejection, humiliation, or betrayal. Most people respond the same way. They drown in despair, they beg for fairness, they chase closure that will never come. But what if you could see these moments not as wounds, but as blueprints? Every act of injustice reveals exactly where your energy has been misallocated, where your trust has been misplaced, and where your boundaries are porous. The world does not owe you healing, but it will always give you lessons, and those lessons are free. The only question is, will you learn from them, or will you continue bleeding the same mistakes into your future? Machiavelli understood this principle in a way few do. He taught that crises are opportunities, that moments of chaos are where true intelligence emerges. Weakness curls under the weight of difficulty. Power transforms it into leverage. Heartbreak is not a wound, it is a strategy manual. Betrayal is not a curse. It is a map of human behavior you can use to navigate every future interaction with precision. Every hardship contains information about who is loyal, who is predictable, and who will exploit you if you remain unaware. The moment you start studying pain, rather than resenting it, you stop being prey. You start becoming untouchable. Turning pain into power requires discipline. It is not enough to survive suffering. You must analyze it, deconstruct it, and internalize it. Ask yourself, every time life cuts deep, what advantage is hidden here? How can this experience sharpen my mind, fortify my boundaries, or teach me control? The moment you stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically, pain becomes currency. And currency, when used wisely, buys influence, authority, and freedom. Emotional pain stops being a weapon others can wield against you. It becomes a weapon you carry into every room, every relationship, every decision. This is where the ruthless diverge from the broken. The weak seek comfort and avoidance. The untouchable seek insight and mastery. They understand that suffering reveals patterns, predicts behavior, and builds resilience. The more pain you endure and transform into lessons, the less manipulable you become. People try to control you with guilt or cruelty, but when your mind has already endured worse, those attempts fail. You are no longer tethered to expectation, and the chains that once bound your energy dissolve in the fire of self-mastery. Repeat this affirmation. My pain builds power. Let it remind you that every scar, every failure, every heartbreak is a resource, not a punishment. Let it shift your mindset from victimhood to strategy, from despair to discipline. The world will continue to test you, but each test now becomes fuel. Each wound now becomes armor. Each betrayal now becomes a lesson in leverage. You are learning to survive your own suffering, and in doing so, transform it into dominance. Pain is no longer a threat. It is the forge where your authority is born, sharpened, and polished until nothing can pierce it. Principle 3. Silence is dominance. The third shift into untouchable power is deceptively simple, yet devastatingly effective. Silence is dominance. Most people misunderstand this. They think that authority comes from speaking more, from explaining themselves, from proving their worth to anyone who doubts them. They fill conversations with justifications, over-explanations, and defenses, believing that transparency will earn respect. But here's the truth that the ruthless understand. The moment you explain yourself, you hand over control. Every word you speak to justify, to apologize, or to clarify becomes information someone else can use against you. Every attempt to be understood is a subtle admission that you are still subject to judgment. Think about the people who command rooms without ever raising their voice. You feel their presence before you hear it. There is tension when they enter because you can't predict them. You don't know what they are thinking, what they might do next, or what they might allow. That uncertainty is magnetic and terrifying. Silence creates that tension. It forces others to fill the void with their own assumptions, fears, and projections. And every assumption they make adds weight to your authority. The more you allow others to guess your intentions, the more power you wield silently. Machiavelli captured this when he wrote, "He who wishes to be obeyed must never over-explain." Obedience, respect, dominance, they do not emerge from clarity, they emerge from control. And control is cultivated in the shadows of restraint. Over-explaining is the fastest path to predictability. When people know why you act, what you feel, or what motivates you, they can manipulate you. They can calculate your reactions, anticipate your weaknesses, and exploit your emotions. But when you remain deliberately unreadable, when you let your actions speak louder than your words, you place yourself beyond their reach. Silence isn't absence, it is strategy. Every pause you take is a calculation. Every unanswered question is a statement. Every withheld explanation is a boundary, a declaration that your energy and your mind are not up for debate. This principle also extends to conflict. People will try to provoke you. They will challenge you. They will attempt to draw responses from you, knowing that your reaction is their leverage. The weak take the bait. They argue. They justify. They defend themselves. And in doing so, they lose power. The untouchable act differently. They hold their silence as a shield and a sword. They observe. They absorb. They wait. They allow the chaos to unfold around them while remaining unaffected. And in that stillness, dominance is felt, not argued. People instinctively recognize power in those who are unshakable, not in those who shout the loudest. Start practicing silence deliberately. Stop explaining why you have limits. Stop defending the boundaries you set. Stop justifying your absence, your decisions, and your standards. Let your calm unsettle others. Let them wonder what you are thinking, what you might do next, what you will allow. This is psychological leverage. Every misjudgment they make about you becomes an opportunity to maintain control. Your silence becomes a language, a presence, a force that people feel long before they understand it. Principle 4. Boundaries are armor. The fourth principle in the path to untouchable power is simple but non-negotiable. Boundaries are your armor. The world is full of people who will exploit generosity, manipulate kindness, and take advantage of patience. Without clear limits, your energy is siphoned away, your trust is weaponized, and your peace is systematically eroded. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are shields to protect the parts of yourself that cannot be replaced, borrowed, or stolen. They are declarations of worth, statements that you exist on your own terms, and warnings to the world that your attention and loyalty are not commodities to be spent carelessly. Most people confuse tolerance with strength. They endure disrespect, forgive betrayals, and allow others to cross lines in the name of peace or love. They believe that bending will protect relationships, or that patience will earn respect. But Machiavelli understood the danger of such miscalculations. He said, "A prince who is not wise cannot be well advised." In other words, if you cannot protect yourself, if you cannot establish clear rules for how you will be treated, you will be manipulated. People are not testing you to learn your character. They are testing you to see where you will break, where you will bend, and where they can take advantage. Every time you fail to enforce a boundary, you teach them how to treat you in the future. Boundaries are more than defense. They are strategy. They signal to the world that your presence is earned, that your loyalty is conditional, and that your energy is valuable. When someone oversteps, when someone disrespects you, a calm but firm enforcement of limits demonstrates authority without aggression. The strong do not plead for respect. They demand it through action. By refusing exploitation and making clear what behavior you will and will not tolerate, you build an invisible fortress around yourself, and those who try to breach it will feel the weight of consequences without ever having to witness a fight. Setting boundaries requires awareness and consistency. It means recognizing who drains your energy, who manipulates your emotions, and who crosses lines that compromise your peace. It means saying no without guilt, cutting off access without drama, and refusing to justify the rules you create. The weak fear rejection or confrontation, but the untouchable understand that respect cannot exist without limits. Those who honor your boundaries are allies. Those who resist them reveal themselves as threats. Boundaries filter the unworthy from the worthy, the manipulators from the sincere, and the chaotic from the disciplined. Repeat this affirmation. My boundaries protect me. Let it guide your actions every time you are tempted to overextend, overforgive, or overexplain. Let it remind you that your peace, your energy, and your authority are non-negotiable. Each time you enforce a limit, you reinforce your power, fortify your presence, and make your life untouchable. People will test you, try to manipulate you, or challenge you, but the moment you hold firm, you demonstrate the kind of dominance that cannot be ignored. Boundaries are not weakness. They are your armor, your strategy, and your statement to the world that you are no longer a resource to be exploited, but a force to be respected. Principle 5. Become untouchable. The fifth and ultimate principle is the culmination of everything we've discussed. Becoming untouchable. This is the point where no insult, no betrayal, no manipulation can penetrate your armor. Untouchability is not about cruelty. It is not about arrogance. It is about complete sovereignty over yourself, your energy, and your reactions. The untouchable exist in a state where chaos cannot destabilize them, where other people's judgments cannot control them, and where external validation has lost its grip entirely. They are, in every sense, untethered. Think about it. Most people live their lives at the mercy of others' opinions, waiting for acknowledgement, craving approval, and fearing disapproval. They bend themselves to fit expectations, they justify their actions to earn understanding, and they sacrifice their energy to preserve peace that never existed. The untouchable do the opposite. They detach from the need to be validated, the need to be liked, and the need to explain. They understand that the world will always challenge them, that chaos is inevitable, and that people will always test their limits. But none of it matters because their authority originates from within, not from approval or recognition. Machiavelli captured this principle when he said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." He was not advocating terror or cruelty. He was articulating the ultimate form of psychological leverage. Those who are untouchable cannot be controlled because they have removed the levers others would pull. They do not flinch in the face of betrayal. They do not seek validation from praise or fear from anger. They are immovable because they have mastered themselves. They act with intention, react with calculation, and live free of attachment to external forces. In every room they enter, their presence commands respect, not because they demand it, but because they are untethered from dependence, fully in control, and impossible to predict. Becoming untouchable requires shedding the last vestiges of reliance on others. The need to justify, the need to be loved, the need to forgive for acceptance, the need to be understood. It is a deliberate detachment from the chaos and manipulation that used to dominate your life. This is not apathy. It is precision. It is not isolation. It is sovereignty. It is the recognition that the only influence anyone can truly have over you is the influence you allow. And once you realize this, you operate beyond fear, beyond expectation, and beyond control. You are untouchable because your power originates from your own discipline and self-mastery. This state is achieved not in a single moment, but through consistent practice of the previous principles: giving wisely, transforming pain into leverage, cultivating silence, enforcing boundaries, every act of restraint, every lesson learned from suffering, every boundary defended, and every word withheld is a step toward untouchability. It is the culmination of strategy, self-possession, and the refusal to allow anyone else to dictate your energy. When you reach this stage, power is effortless. People instinctively sense it. They may fear it, respect it, or even resent it, but they cannot manipulate it. Your presence becomes a force of nature, calm, deliberate, and impossible to shake. Repeat this affirmation: nothing can break me. Let it anchor you in every challenge, every betrayal, every test. Let it remind you that your strength is independent of the world's chaos. Your peace does not rely on approval, and your authority does not require permission. Becoming untouchable is the ultimate evolution. It is the state where you are free from emotional manipulation, immune to exploitation, and sovereign over your own life. Once you achieve this, you are no longer a participant in the world's games. You are the measure by which those games are played. Stop bending. Stop explaining. Stop giving yourself away to those who do not see your value. Stop sacrificing your energy, your peace, and your boundaries for anyone who does not earn them. You have been walking through life as version 1, the version that hopes, pleads, and sacrifices endlessly. But now, after learning these principles, you are beginning to understand the blueprint for version 2, the version that commands attention without begging for it, that influences without demanding, that moves through the world untouchable. The difference between those who are broken and those who dominate is the discipline to withhold, to observe, and to act with precision. Every principle we've covered, giving wisely, turning pain into power, cultivating silence, enforcing boundaries, and becoming untouchable, is a step toward reclaiming that authority. Imagine living without needing validation from anyone. Imagine walking into a room and having your presence felt without a single word. Imagine knowing that no betrayal, no insult, no manipulation can touch the core of who you are. This is not a fantasy. This is the result of practicing strategy over submission, restraint over reaction, and self-possession over dependence. You are no longer subject to the whims of others because your power originates from within. The world may continue to test you, but those tests now become opportunities, not traps. Every act of chaos thrown at you is merely information, a lesson, a chance to reinforce your untouchable state. The transformation does not happen overnight. It happens in deliberate shifts. Saying no when you once said yes. Pausing instead of reacting. Observing instead of explaining. Holding your presence as a gift rather than a default. Each moment you enforce your boundaries, each time you convert pain into insight, each time you withhold your energy instead of giving it freely, you are strengthening your armor. You are constructing a fortress that the world cannot breach. And as you practice these principles, you will notice a change in how people respond to you. They will hesitate before testing you. They will respect your limits. They will recognize, even unconsciously, that you are no longer a resource to be exploited, but a force to be reckoned with. Repeat this affirmation aloud and let it anchor you. I am untouchable now. Let it remind you that every lesson you've learned, every principle you've applied, and every shift you've embraced builds toward a version of yourself that cannot be manipulated, drained, or controlled. You have the blueprint. You have the strategies. You have the insight to transform generosity into power, vulnerability into authority, and discipline into sovereignty. The choice is no longer whether you are affected by the world. It is whether you will let the world touch you at all. Take action now. Let every word of this video serve as a call to reclaim your energy, reclaim your presence, and reclaim your authority. Build your boundaries. Convert your pain into power. Speak less, observe more, give selectively, and above all, master yourself. The world will notice the difference. It will test you. It may resist you, but it cannot bend someone who refuses to be bent. You are no longer version 1. You are version 2. Strategic, controlled, formidable, and untouchable. Your power is yours. Guard it. Own it. Let it define every interaction, every choice, and every moment of your life.